7. Essential pillars of support. After 55, stronger than family. Let me tell you something I've learned after living more than half a century. When you cross the age of 55, life doesn't just change, it reveals. It shows you who truly matters. It shows you what was real all along. The noise of youth dies down, and what's left behind are echoes that either strengthen you or haunt you. And here's a hard truth. Sometimes, the very people you gave everything to, your time, your love, your years, are not the ones who stand beside you when you need someone most. Now, don't get me wrong, family is a blessing, but as you age, you realize something even deeper. You begin to see that support, true support, is built on more than blood. It's built on understanding, shared values, strength of spirit, and unshakable presence. And sometimes the strongest pillars in your life are not your children, your siblings, or even your spouse. They're the things and people you've built, nurtured, or discovered along the way. Quiet things, lasting things. At this stage in your life, it's easy to start feeling like the world is speeding up while you're slowing down. Your body aches a bit more than it used to. You forget names that once came easy. You might find yourself sitting in a quiet room wondering, is this all there is now? I've sat in that room too. I've stared at the ceiling, listening to silence so loud it felt deafening. But I'm here to tell you, no, this isn't the end. In fact, if you let it, this can be your beginning. The truth is, there are pillars in life that will hold you up long after family grows distant or distracted. These pillars aren't always obvious, but once you recognize them, they can transform how you live your later years. They can give you strength that doesn't fade with age. They can light up your mornings with purpose and tuck you in at night with peace. I've lived through grief. I've lost people I thought I'd have forever. I've faced illness and watched the mirror reflect a man older than I remember becoming. But I've also laughed with friends I didn't know I needed. I've found peace in places far from the dinner table, and I've discovered truths that carried me when flesh and blood could not. That's why I'm here, because I want to pass these truths on to you. You're not too old. You're not finished. You haven't missed your chance. There are still fires inside you waiting to be lit. There is still life inside you that hasn't been lived. And these 7 pillars, these essential supports stronger than family, are going to help you rediscover the beauty, the strength, and the purpose that still belongs to you. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Pillar of Faith, your eternal anchor. If there's one thing that's held me together through every storm life's thrown at me, it's my faith. Not the kind of faith that just sits in a pew on Sunday and forgets itself by Monday. I'm talking about the kind of faith that you clutch like a lifeline when the doctor gives you news that chills your bones. The kind that whispers to you in the dead of night when you can't sleep and don't know what to pray. That's the pillar I want to start with because it's the one that's never failed me. When you pass the age of 55, things get quieter. Your kids may be grown and gone, the phone doesn't ring like it used to, and the pace of life slows down. And in that stillness, the doubts start creeping in. What is my purpose now? Have I done enough? Will I be remembered? That's where faith comes in, real faith, the kind that reminds you that your worth isn't measured by how much money you saved, how many people praise you, or even how much your family visits. It's measured by your connection to something greater than yourself, to God, to the eternal. I've sat in rooms with old friends whose families never came around, who faced sickness alone, and whose names slowly slipped from the memories of those they loved. But I saw peace in their eyes. Why? Because they weren't truly alone. Their faith was strong. They knew the author of their story had not written their final chapter yet. Faith gives your soul a spine. It helps you stand when your knees feel too weak. It gives you purpose when you wake up in the morning and don't have anywhere to be. And let me tell you, when you have faith, you have a companion that walks with you, even through the valley of the shadow of death. That's not just a pretty Bible verse. That's truth. I've lived it, and so can you. If you're over 55, strengthen your faith. Feed it. Talk to God like he's sitting across the room, because he is. Don't let the world tell you you're done. You're not. As long as you have breath, you have a purpose. Let faith be your first and strongest pillar. Let it remind you who you are, and more importantly, whose you are. Chapter 2. The Pillar of Purpose. You still matter. You know, there's a dangerous lie floating around. It creeps into the hearts of people our age, and it says, you've done your part. Now step aside. It tells you that you're too old to be useful, that your wisdom is outdated, that your time has passed. And if you're not careful, you'll believe it. You'll start to shrink yourself to fit that lie. But I'm here to shake you out of that nonsense. Because your purpose didn't retire when you did. Your value didn't shrink with your income, and your voice didn't lose its power just because your hair turned gray. Purpose isn't just for the young. In fact, I'd argue that it grows stronger with age. You've lived through things most people can't even imagine. You've survived heartbreaks, raised children, buried loved ones, worked jobs that wore down your back, and built homes out of nothing but grit and prayer. And now? Now you carry a kind of wisdom the world desperately needs, but only if you share it. Your purpose might look different now. It may not be about climbing ladders or chasing dreams. It might be about mentoring a younger person who's where you once were. It could be about volunteering, writing, praying for others, or even just being the rock someone else leans on. Purpose isn't about spotlight, it's about impact. Quiet impact, steady impact, the kind that lasts. When I hit 60, I thought my time had passed. I thought I had nothing left to offer. But then a young man at my church asked me how I'd stayed married 40 years. And for an hour, I poured into him, my failures, my lessons, my regrets, and my hope. He looked at me like I'd handed him treasure, and I realized I still matter. You still matter. Don't let age lie to you. The world may overlook you, but God never does. You're still breathing because your purpose isn't finished. There are still battles that need your wisdom, still hearts that need your kindness, still lives that will be shaped by your story. Let this be the season where you stop asking, "What's left for me?" and start saying, "Lord, use me however you will." Purpose is a pillar that will hold you steady in every season. Don't lose it. Don't ignore it. Embrace it. You're not just passing time, you're planting seeds. And some of those seeds won't bloom until long after you're gone, but they'll bloom because you chose to keep living on purpose. Let's keep going. There are 5 more pillars, and each one will lift you higher than the last. Chapter 3. The Pillar of Health, Respecting the Body That Carries You. Let me tell you something that took me a long time to learn. Your body is not your enemy, even when it starts to slow down. It's not betraying you, even when your knees ache and your back groans when you get up. It's just talking to you, in the only way it knows how, after carrying you through decades of living. The real question is, are you listening? At 55 and beyond, most people start to think about health only when something goes wrong. A bad report from the doctor, a sudden hospitalization, but by then, the damage has often been done. If you're still standing, walking, breathing without assistance, you are rare, you are blessed, and you need to honor that. I've watched friends of mine fall apart not because of old age, but because they stopped caring. They gave up. They thought, what's the point in eating healthy? What's the point in walking or exercising at this age? But let me tell you, there is a point, and it's bigger than just living longer. It's about living better, clearer, freer. Your body may never be what it was at 25, but that doesn't mean you should let it decay. Move it, stretch it, feed it what gives it strength, not what satisfies your cravings. You don't have to run marathons, just take walks. Don't chase youth, chase vitality. You've still got time to strengthen what's weak, loosen what's stiff, and nourish what's starving. And this isn't just about muscles and bones. This is about the temple of your soul. When you take care of your body, You're honoring the God who created it. You're saying, Lord, I may be older, but I'm still available. I'm still able. And here's the truth. Taking care of your health is not selfish. It's a gift to your family, your community, and your future. It means fewer hospital visits, more energy to serve others, more clarity to make good decisions, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to be around longer for the people who love you. So let's not treat health like an afterthought. Let it be a pillar that holds up your purpose and your faith. Respect your body, and it will respect you back. It won't be perfect, but it'll carry you where you need to go, if you're willing to carry it well. Chapter 4. The Pillar of True Companionship. Beyond Bloodlines. You know, one of the hardest lessons I've learned as I've aged is this. Not everyone who shares your last name will show up when life gets hard. And that's okay, because after 55, you learn that companionship, the kind that truly supports and sustains you, often comes from places you least expect. I used to think family was everything. And don't get me wrong, I love my family. But life has taught me that support doesn't always come in the shape of sons and daughters or even lifelong friends. Sometimes it comes from a neighbor who checks on you every day. Sometimes from someone you met at church just 2 months ago. Sometimes it's the mailman who notices your newspapers are piling up and knocks on your door. See, companionship is more than shared DNA. It's shared care, shared burdens. It's someone who listens without judgment, who shows up when they don't have to, who notices the small things because they truly care. And if you're over 55, let me say this, don't isolate yourself. Don't believe the lie that you have nothing to offer in relationships anymore. You do. Your wisdom, your stories, your presence, they matter. But you've got to stay open to meeting new people, open to giving your heart again, even if it's been broken, open to receiving love in new, sometimes unexpected forms. I've found that some of the strongest pillars in my life now are people I didn't even know when I was 50. But they came into my life like angels with skin. They supported me through sickness, prayed with me when I was down, laughed with me over coffee. These weren't people I grew up with, but they became my family, not by blood, but by choice. So here's what I want you to remember. You're not too old for new friendships. Not too old to build community, not too old to love or be loved. Companionship isn't just a luxury in this season of life, it's a necessity. A lifeline, make the call, send the message. Accept the invitation. Don't let pride or past hurt stop you from opening your heart, because after 55, companionship becomes sacred. And sometimes, the ones who support you best aren't the ones who started the journey with you, but the ones God sends along the way, exactly when you need them most. And that, my friend, is a pillar worth standing on. Let's keep going. There are 3 more pillars that will hold you up strong, no matter what this life brings. Berta. Chapter 5. The Pillar of Purpose. Why you're still here matters. Let me tell you something. I wish someone had told me when I first stepped into my 60s. Just because you've retired doesn't mean you're done. Just because your kids don't need you in the same way. Just because your phone doesn't ring as much. Just because the world doesn't seem to move at your pace anymore. None of that means your purpose has expired. If you're still breathing, you're still needed. Purpose after 55 isn't about grand accomplishments or chasing the dreams of your youth. It's deeper than that. It's about legacy. About wisdom, about impact. Your value doesn't come from your title, your salary, or how many people depend on you. It comes from who you are, what you've lived through, and how you choose to use those lessons to bless others. Some of the most meaningful things I've done in my life happened after I stopped working full-time. That's when I really had the time to reflect, to mentor, to pray deeply, and to show up for people in ways I never could when I was chasing the clock. Purpose in this season of life looks like being the calm in someone else's storm. It looks like a kind word, a listening ear, a guiding hand. It could be sharing your story with someone younger who needs your wisdom. It could be volunteering at the local shelter or church. It could be writing letters, calling old friends, planting a garden that your grandkids will one day walk through. Don't underestimate the small things. They're often the very tools God uses to change lives. And please hear me on this. Your purpose isn't in the past, it's in this moment. You don't have to chase relevance. You are relevant because God hasn't called you home yet. That means there's still something for you to do, someone who needs what only you can give. So if you've been feeling like you're drifting, wake up to this truth. You're still here for a reason. Don't waste this season wishing for the past. Live it with your eyes forward and your heart wide open. Because when you live with purpose, even the smallest act becomes a sacred offering. Chapter 6. The Pillar of Financial Wisdom. Living with peace, not pressure. Now let's talk about something a lot of people avoid. Money. I know. By the time you're 55, you've probably heard it all. Save more, spend less, invest smart. But let me speak to you not as a financial advisor, but as someone who's lived long enough to understand what true wealth means. I've watched folks lose everything because they chased wealth without wisdom. I've also watched people with very little live with peace and dignity because they learned the power of contentment. See, money at this stage of life isn't about how much you have. It's about how wisely you live with what you've got. If you're over 55, it's not too late to get your house in order. Know where your money goes. Cut what you don't need. Make peace with the idea that enough truly is enough. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to keep up with anyone. You need stability, simplicity, and a sense of control. I've seen how financial stress can eat away at your joy, even if everything else in life is going well. That's why this pillar matters so much. It's not about being rich, it's about being free from debt, free from worry. Free to give generously when God prompts you, free to enjoy what you've worked hard for. One of the greatest decisions I ever made was downsizing. Not just my home, but my mindset. I stopped needing more. I started being grateful for what I had. And let me tell you, gratitude is better than gold, because when you learn to live with peace instead of pressure, you open yourself up to the real riches: time, love, freedom, and joy. If you're feeling overwhelmed financially, don't hide from it. Talk to someone, seek advice, make changes, even if they're small. And remember, God is your provider, not your pension. He's not limited by the numbers in your bank account. He blesses those who steward wisely and trust Him fully. So let this be a pillar you stand on: financial wisdom, not fear, not shame. But wisdom, learn it, live it. And you'll walk into every new year not wondering if you have enough, but knowing that you are enough, and that's more than money can buy. Ready for the final chapter? Let's talk about the one pillar that holds everything else together. Chapter 7. The Pillar of Spiritual Strength. Anchored beyond the storm. If there's one thing that has kept me upright through the hardest seasons of life, it's this: my spiritual strength, not my willpower, not my intelligence. Not even the people around me, as good as they've been. No, it was something deeper, something eternal. Something unshakable. After 55, you begin to see just how fragile this world is. Friends pass on. Your body changes. The routines you built your life around begin to fade. But the one thing that never crumbles under the pressure of time is your relationship with God. That's the true anchor, my friend. That's the pillar that holds when everything else gives way. Spiritual strength is not about appearing religious or knowing every verse by heart. It's about intimacy. It's about trust. It's about walking so closely with God that even when everything else is stripped away, you know you're never alone. You see, this world tells us we need more stuff to feel secure. But the older I get, the more I realize it's not what's in your hands that keeps you steady. It's what's in your heart. It's who is in your heart. And when God is there, deep, rooted, alive, you can handle anything. Loss, change, even death. At this stage in life, we're not just preparing for retirement. We're preparing for eternity. We're thinking about legacy, about meaning, about whether our days were spent in vain or in victory. And that kind of reflection, that kind of clarity, it can only come from a heart grounded in faith. Do you pray, not just when things go wrong, but when things are quiet? Do you talk to God like He's near? Because He is. Do you seek Him in the ordinary, not just the emergency? Because He's there too. That's where spiritual strength grows, in the unseen, in the stillness, in the surrender. I don't say this to scare you, but to awaken you. The storms will come. They always do. And when they do, it won't be your job title, your bank account, or even your family that holds you together. It'll be your faith, your trust in a God who is bigger than time, deeper than pain, and stronger than fear. So let this pillar stand firm in your life. Build your days around Him, not just Sundays, but every morning. Every breath, every step, because when God is your foundation, age becomes just a number, and every year is a gift, not a curse. Conclusion: a life built on pillars that time cannot break. If you've made it this far, then I want to tell you something from one old soul to another. You are not done yet. I don't care what the world says. I don't care what your body says. I don't care what society says about growing older. You are not fading. You are maturing. You are ripening with wisdom. You are reaching your finest form, but only if you choose to. You see, aging can either harden you or soften you. It can either leave you bitter or make you better, and the difference lies in what you build your life on. These 7 pillars, friendship, community, purpose, health, financial wisdom, legacy, and faith, aren't just survival tools. They are the beams that hold up a life of meaning. You've seen a lot. You've lost some things and gained others. You've weathered storms younger folks can't imagine, and yet here you are, still standing. Still breathing, still learning, still giving. You are a living example that age does not diminish value, it refines it, so don't withdraw. Don't shrink back. Don't believe the lie that you've peaked. Instead, rise up. Embrace your wisdom, share your voice, use your strength. Walk boldly on these pillars and let the world see what a life built on eternal values really looks like. Because after 55, you're not nearing the end, you're just finally beginning to live with clarity, courage, and conviction. Now go, live with joy, live with purpose. And live knowing this truth: you are stronger than you think, and your best days are not behind you. They're just getting started.